Musician Jack White and Karen Elson's divorce party might rival their wedding. The rocker and his wife du jour, Karen Elson, announced on Friday, that was their 6th anniversary, that they're splitting up.
But they're not mourning the demise of their marriage. In fact, they're celebrating it with a party described as a positive, quote, swing, bang, humdinger, whatever that is. The invitation asked close friends and family to please help us celebrate this anniversary of the making and breaking of the sacred union of marriage with our best friends and animals. Why animals?
That's my favorite part. All right, joining us in studio is Theo Sellas, a family therapist of close to 20 years and the author of a self-help parody book, Selfishness Matters, Getting What You Want Without Having to Care. And in Toronto is Valerie Gibson, our Square Off's resident social commentator. Okay, so Valerie, question for you.
Yeah.
Doesn't it seem a little flippant to celebrate the death of a marriage?
Well, I think this is a trend, there's no question, but I have to say that, you know, it is best to have an amicable divorce, but for something like this you have to have your ducks in a row, don't you? And there's an awful lot of ducks. No anger, no bitterness, no fighting over the kids and custody, property, money has to be right. There's so many things, and how often can that happen? You have to be really wealthy, and there has to be a monetary thing perhaps to settle everybody down, and no bitterness. That's rare.
Extremely rare. Theo, is there some kind of positive therapeutic value to dealing with such a negative event like a divorce in very positive terms like a party?
Well, I think that I'm generally in favor of parties. I think they're great. But I think in this case, divorce parties are distasteful. I think there is something sacred about marriage, and I think obviously sometimes marriages may need to end, but I think in that situation where a marriage ends up dying, I think that's worth time of self-reflection and a time of respect. And I think throwing a party, literally dancing on the grave of a marriage, really I think trivializes marriage to a degree. And I think that it is unsavory, and I think it also creates problems, the potential for problems between you and your ex, especially if you have children. So I don't think it's a really good idea.
So Valerie, you mentioned kids. What happens, you know, a lot of people don't divorce because they don't want to upset the family and the balance and the kids. How will the kids react? What happens when the kids are at a party which is celebrating mommy and daddy living separately and kind of, you know, changing the whole family dynamic? What do they think about this? What is it teaching them?
Well, I think in this case they're very young, aren't they, the children, the two children. So they're going to grow up in a place where, oh, I have 2 homes and 2 places to go to where I'm spoiled at both, and all the kids in my class or daycare or whatever, all in the same boat. It's a very different situation from years ago when it was very, very traumatic to be the only one in a group of children that had divorced parents. It just isn't that way anymore. But I have to say about the positive side, perhaps, if there is one of this sort of, yes, I believe it's a rather unsavory trend, is that the friends do not have to choose. And that's always the whole situation, isn't it? Which camp do you go to, his or hers? When they're amicable, having parties, you can invite them both still, can't you? So friends are very happy about this.
Well, that's an important part, Theo. The social network goes on, and in this case, the social network is intact. I suppose that's a positive, is it not, Theo?
I think this case, and I think that there's probably some caution we should have in terms of letting celebrities be our role models as to what constitutes healthy relationships.
Amen to that.
I think it would be very rare for a divorce party to have both of the parents or partners together, celebrating together and making something positive out of it for the children. I think the typical scenario really will be, and as I understood from just looking at through some of the websites of these divorce party planning people, is that typically it's more the case of one person throwing the party, and fairly quickly, I think, setting up a situation where you're trash-talking the other person and celebrating them. I was looking at some of the testimonials written by people who had experienced the joys of a divorce party, and they're really slanted towards a great deal of bitterness still, where, you know, they're happy to be out of a horrible marriage. And my favorite one was where the woman was celebrating by, the height of the party was when she burned her ex's sporting trophies. And that was part of her being able to let go. So I think that as much as it may sound nice by these party planners, I think it's important to remember that they're not there really to help you do something therapeutic. It's a business. And more often than not, I think it will create more bitterness and resentment.
Well, it's interesting, the whole question of letting go. Val, is it easier, and I'll put this to you as a woman, is it easier for a woman to let go if there is some animosity? In other words, the wound is there, you can start cauterizing that wound by the hate that you have for the bugger, and you move on.
I think that does help in a way make the division. It's like the cutting of the gangrenous arm, if you like. It's sort of getting it off. I know none of my 5 husbands would want me to party with them. They're still angry, some of them. So I don't think that works. And I think it may, with all divorces, not all, but a lot of divorces start off amicably. And then they deteriorate as the lawyers get involved and everything has to be sorted. It's possible, in this case, they've sorted everything beforehand. But there is no question that bitterness and anger increases once you get down to the hard stuff of who gets the houses, the money, and so on. So I think it's a rather empty gesture, just an excuse for another celebrity thing, wild, getting some publicity, really. I don't think that this is beneficial to anybody, except, as I said earlier, perhaps the friends might be, breathing a sigh of relief. At least they get a breather.
Okay, so Theo, let's say you are invited to one of these parties. Just so we get an idea of what to do, what do we bring? Do we bring, like, a potential new mate? Do we bring, like, a guy for a woman, or, a single woman for a guy? What's the proper thing to bring? What's the present?
You might find this a little
lawyer.
But one of the websites was actually advocating that, so you bring a cake, and one of these cakes actually had
a person in it?
Male genitalia, and at the end of the party, everyone got to slice it up, which made me a little nervous. I just want to say for the record that I'm against the slicing up of male genitalia. It makes me nervous.
That's not so nice, but that's a great thing to end on. Thank you so much, Theo Sellis, family therapist, the author of the self-help parody book, Selfishness Matters, Getting What You Want Without Having to Care, and Valerie Gibson. Great to see you again. Thanks for chiming in on this really interesting subject.
Thank you.
Thank you.